Avery, whose show is this? And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lounge Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Senior Lakers Insider for Clutch Points. And today on the show, we are going to be talking about whatever you want to talk about. It's Sunday. You guys are going to be listening to this in pod form on a Monday, which means it will therefore be a Mailbag Monday episode, as we do every week. Already asked for questions. Got one from the iTunes 5-star reviews. Thank you for those. And then we'll obviously be fielding questions from the live audience here on YouTube. So if you want to get a question in, you can do so. And if you want to make sure you don't miss any further shows like this, you can head on over to youtube.com/@Lakers Lounge and find the show there. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and dive on in. Before we do that, there was a bit of a scare with Luka and, over the weekend, freaked a lot of people out, myself included. So we'll really quickly update that situation, give my thoughts on that situation and him playing for Slovenia. And then I will dive into your guys' questions, where you guys have already asked about Luka's co-star. You guys have asked about Rui Hachimura and the role that he might play next year and his kind of approach to it. I have some other questions here from Twitter. So, yeah, let's go ahead and dive on in, starting with Luka. So there was a play in the warm-up game that Slovenia played over the weekend. It was on a Saturday, yesterday. I tweeted it out, and I will go ahead and really quickly grab that so that you guys can see the play, just in case you didn't. But in the play, Luka, is already getting kind of shoved, which actually is kind of beneficial. But he's already getting kind of shoved, and as he is falling down, one of his teammates tries to take a charge and slams right into him. And it reminded me a little bit of when Kobe fell into Bynum's knee forever ago. And this was after Bynum had already recovered from the first injury. Bynum comes back. Kobe, I believe, drove baseline, shot a layup, got knocked over, and kind of slid as they do. He's kind of sliding on his butt. And while he was sliding on his butt, Bynum was standing there straight-legged and, fully implanted on his leg. And Kobe fell into him. Bynum goes down in a heap, loses the rest of that season. And when I first heard about this injury, when I saw there was a tweet that went out, I forget which account it was, but they were like, oh no, Luka's teammate took a charge and fell into Luka's knee. And, that was like the extent of the tweet. I saw that tweet. I was like, you got to be fucking kidding me. No way. Then I found video. I wasn't watching the game yesterday. But I was kind of scrolling through Twitter, took the kids to the pool, and first saw that tweet, freaked out, told Jen, hold on, can't go in the pool quite yet. Might have to rush home and record an emergency episode, and then also check myself into the emergency. Then I finally found video of it, and here it is. So you can kind of see the charge, and fortunately, again, for Luka, he was already being pushed over. And excuse me. So, you see his teammate takes that charge as the player is driving into the paint. Luka's already getting kind of shoved on the backside of the play. And fortunately, when his teammate lands on him or falls into him, he's already fought. So there was no weight on that knee. So it just kind of allows the knee. I think they're saying he has a contusion, which we Lakers fans don't necessarily love that terminology, but he's already going down. His foot is already kind of up in the air. He gets hit on the outside of his knee there. And I would prefer it not happen, obviously. But if that play is going to take place, that's kind of the best case scenario in that it is a dangerous play. That's why I hate charges. Um, and fortunately for everybody involved, Luka is going to be okay. He already practiced. I believe he finished the game, and they've since kind of released a statement about what his injury currently is. Apparently, it's just a contusion, right? It's just a bruise. And I am still of the mind that, look, if he wants to play for Slovenia and finish this out, um, I'm not going to tell him not to. I would prefer not to see him, put himself at risk on plays like this. Right after signing this huge extension and all of that. But uh, at the end of the day, he's a very proud Slovenian. He is going to play for that Slovenian national team, and it's kind of a good thing for us that that team isn't very good, and he should be in and out of the tournament relatively quickly. Now, as far as like recovery time from this, I think he's going to be very, very careful with it. Greg St. Jean, right, is out there with the Slovenian national team as a representative of the Lakers, so he's going to keep a very close eye to make sure that everybody is very smart about this situation. And I actually got a question in the mailbag asking about this whole thing. So I'll go ahead and just answer it right off the bat. This is from Gregory Brown at Gregory with a bunch of numbers. Can the Lakers shut Luka down? The Lakers cannot afford to lose him. Agreed on the second point. They could technically, right? They could step in and say, "Hey, we've had enough here," right? And the Magic Johnson gif where he's like, "Enough," sit him down. There in summer league, and yeah, they technically, if they really wanted to make us think about it, they could. They just are not going to do that. The Lakers, just like all of these guys, the teams, Jokic plays for his national team. Giannis plays for Greece. Jokic plays for Serbia. Giannis plays for Greece. You have any number of players who play for their European national teams or Australian national teams or what have you, and it's basically a player by player thing. They can either want to participate and represent their country, or they can say, "Hey, I just had a lengthy playoff run." Right, like normally, if you see a player coming off of like a championship run, and then the following year they have the Olympics or they have Eurobasket or they have whatever international tournament that summer, they'll say, sorry, I am going to sit this one out because I literally my season just ended a few weeks ago and I need to let my body recover from that grueling 80. Well, sometimes it's upwards of you have an 82 game season, you have to win at least 16 playoff games, right? So you're talking about a 100 game season, and that is just a lot of wear and tear to put on the body. And if you have that kind of lengthy season, you'll have players, whether it's to the American national team, whether it's to their native national team, they'll just say, yeah, sorry, I can't do that after this. Luka did not have a lengthy playoff run. He has spent all summer getting into the best shape of his life. I actually think there is value in him playing with this, after this body transformation, as he kind of gets used to playing a little bit lighter or real used to playing a little bit lighter, seeing as he was at one point this skinny. Um, I found it interesting, honestly, that he was getting pushed over which was really hard to do back when he was 270 or whatever. I do think there is some value in him getting some reps, with this new kind of body. But one of the things that teams kind of worry about, I remember when Dirk played for Germany, the Mavericks were not very comfortable with the number of minutes that Germany was playing him because their team wasn't very good. And I think that's something that we might be a little nervous about here with Slovenia because they are not good. And then as soon as Luka exits the court, you're like, man, this team is really rough. And if they're trying to win these games, they're going to want to play Luka as much as they can. But that's where it's nice to have Greg St. Jean out there to tell their coach, hey, cool it. This guy has a long NBA season coming in a matter of weeks, and we need him to be properly rested by the time we get to training camp. So, yeah, technically, I think that the Lakers could try to shut him down. I just don't think they will. Rob Pelinka, right? I'm reading that book that I've mentioned a few times on the show, Yaron Weitzman's Hollywood Ending, and there's a segment about Rob Pelinka and his management of Kobe, and Rob, his kind of management style is very yes man. Um, you tell me to jump, I ask you how high. And one of the examples that was given in the book was uh, when Kobe was younger, Rob was assigned to him as his agent. Kobe was convinced he was going to miss Vanessa, and his family was against it. His the Rob Pelinka's boss at the time, Arn Tellem, told him, well, if you're going to marry her, you should have her sign a prenup. Kobe didn't want her to sign a prenup. And the whole time, Rob was in the background, just basically agreeing with whatever Kobe was saying, that how he wanted to handle that situation. And Rob never pushed for a prenup. That's part of why he got on the good side of Vanessa. And you kind of fast forward, and when LeBron first got to the Lakers, it was, all right, LeBron, you tell me to jump and I ask you how high. Now, since Luka has gotten to the Lakers, Luka gets there and says he needs a center. The Lakers immediately go out and trade for Mark Williams. Season ends, obviously, right after that trade gets rescinded. Season ends. First order of business for the Lakers, getting DeAndre Ayton as their starting center, somebody who shares an agency with Luka. So, like, basically, if Luka says he wants to do something, Rob is not going to be the guy to be like, well, yeah, but that's just not how it's going to go. So, anybody kind of, I think it's one of those things where I'm going to enjoy watching him play. And I do enjoy watching him play. He looked great, by the way, in that first half before the injury. I'm going to enjoy watching him play, but I'm going to do so with my breath held to a certain extent, just kind of crossing my fingers, like, just get through it, just get through it, just get through it. Oh, yeah, that's right. He's really good. Just get through it. Just get, hey, oh, Luka Magic. All right, just get through it. Just get through it. Can you get him out of the game? Like, that's basically how we're all going to be watching these games. And, it's going to be a nerve-wracking experience. And hopefully he and everybody participating in Eurobasket get through it healthy, and they're able to resume play with their NBA teams heading into training camp. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the mailbag. I'm going to start, as I always do, with the iTunes mailbag. We got one question from Kush Corleone, who wrote on Wednesday, quote, I tuned into the pod while you guys were discussing second units. Missed what you and Raj landed on with the starters at the time. I'm writing this question, but if Smart ended up with the starters in place of Rui, I know we're all skeptical of Rui's motivation level coming off the bench, but does any facet of him playing for a bigger contract, whether that's with the Lakers or elsewhere next year, factor into trusting him to play with his role or play his role for the second unit? And if Rui is a bench guy, how do you think his agent is instructing him to approach this season? Well, first and foremost, He is very much attached himself to Luka, and I think that is a very wise move from Rui. I would imagine his agent could said like, "Hey, this is his organization now. Let's make good with the superstar." Now, as far as the contract goes and how Rui can handle that, it's a bit of a wild card, right? The Lakers have a few guys. They have Rui on an expiring. They have Austin playing the season before he can opt out of his current contract. So he's essentially on an expiring. You have Marcus Smart on a prove it deal. You have DeAndre Ayton on a prove it deal. You have Jackson Hayes on a prove it deal. You have you have a ton. You have fucking LeBron is on a you know, prove it deal essentially. He's on an expiring now. So there are going to be a lot of guys who are going to be, you know, kind of playing for their future in the NBA and their financial future as well, and that can create a bit of a tinderbox kind of situation. Now that said, I think JJ is very, very good when it comes to communication and back and forth communication with players. So if he goes to Rui and says, "Hey, I think we're going to go with Marcus in the starting lineup," that can be one of those spots where, you know, he has to have that conversation with Luka, and just and those guys can arrive wherever they arrive in that conversation. I do trust JJ to handle that situation well. I do trust Rui to you know, kind of put his best foot forward. The thing about roles is it's not set in stone. So if it comes down to like if and now I'll also say I would prefer Smart start, but we also know that JJ always kind of leans in favor of the better shooter. Rui is the much better shooter over Marcus Smart. So maybe that might be a deciding factor or one of them. And if that's how it goes, right? If start if I knew I was going to make that mistake, if Smart starts the season on the bench, that doesn't mean that he's going to finish the season on the bench, let alone games. He might start games with the starting lineup, but then finish with a very different group. That is a kind of thing that happens all the time. Um, but he might, you know, over the first few weeks, if it looks like the Lakers need a little bit more oomph defensively, then, you know, maybe that's something that JJ and his staff look at, and eventually they tweak it. If Smart starts the season with the starting lineup and it looks like, you know, the shooting is an issue, and maybe Austin takes a step forward defensively, and they don't feel as uncomfortable with him being your primary point of attack defender or wing defender, then, or maybe Rui takes a step forward defensively, that makes him fit with that starting group a little bit better, then that's a possibility that you know, they put Rui with the starters, and they send Smart to the bench. So I don't know. I guess it's great offseason fodder. It's great debate content, offseason starter, who should start, who should be with the second unit. Though that's all great, and it gets us through the offseason on shows like this, but it's just not that important to me because it's a very long season, and because like how many teams how many Lakers teams have you ever seen start the season with one starting lineup and finish the season with that exact starting lineup, especially in this era where players are moved as frequently as they are. There are far more teams that finish the season with a different starting lineup than the one that they started with, and I would actually say that that's probably more of the norm than the other way than the alternative. So yeah, I would probably say that, you know, I am a little nervous about Rui's engagement level. He was a very different player coming off of the bench versus starting last year. And that is something that his agent should tell him, like, hey man, you can't afford to mope in this contract season. And maybe that's how they'll handle it. or maybe his agent and his camp push a little harder to get him in that starting group, because that gives him more opportunities. You're on the court more with Luka. You're on the court more with LeBron. You're on the court more with Austin. So you have those creators there to make life easier on you. Maybe they prefer those opportunities over being kind of the biggest fish in a smaller pond with second units. So yeah, I would probably say that you know, I understand why it's something we're going to keep talking about over the course of the summer, but I don't think it's as important as it's kind of perceived to be right now on August 17th. All right, next question here comes from Twitter, where at Bashir_1 writes, if a star was to get traded here next summer, how would Austin factor into that? What incentive does he have in a sign and trade when he can pick his own team and get the same money? Yeah, I mean, like, he has to participate in, he has to agree to the contract. He has to he has to agree to the trade, right? As part of the signing the contract. I know Austin would prefer to be a Laker for the entirety of his career, so that would maybe take some convincing. That said, if it's like, all right, here's the contract that you can get by participating in the sign and trade versus the kind of contract that you might get just as a free agent with a limited player pool there. Um, if it pays him better to be part of that sign and trade, then he'll probably really consider that larger contract. Now, as far as like how the Lakers would prefer to see this go, I think they would prefer to be able to get that next superstar. And I'll talk about who that superstar might be here in a second. But I think they would prefer to get that superstar and keep Austin in that process to see how Austin and Luka and that superstar would fit together. And I'm actually fairly optimistic about how that would go. So yeah, I think, how would I envision? Let's see, if a star was to get traded here next summer, how would Austin factor into that? Yeah, he's the guy that team would probably ask for. He is going to be making enough money by way of his next contract to make contract matching that much easier if it comes to that. If the Lakers do this next offseason when their books are relatively clean, he might not factor into it at all. The Lakers have his bird rights, and if they acquire Giannis by trading for him into their cap space at the time, then they can resign Austin and go above, obviously, the salary cap to keep him. Now it just depends on where that would put you above the first apron, above, below the second apron is where I think I can pretty comfortably predict where the Lakers are trying to land. They don't want to go above the second apron. The first apron is, obviously tricky, but they've already gone above it before. And I think if you're going to employ a Giannis and a Luka and an Austin, your chances, just like we've seen here with LeBron, right? Uh, your chances at staying below the first apron with three contracts like that get kind of tough. So, yeah, I would probably say that it's probably likely that he will be part of the negotiations. No, not likely. It's almost a surefire thing that if the Lakers in, say, Milwaukee get into trade negotiations for Giannis, the first name in terms of players that Milwaukee is going to ask about is Reeves. And then it's like, well, do you want Giannis or do you want to try to keep Reeves here? And how do those negotiations go? We talked last week about the negotiations that the Lakers had with the Mavericks and the what if of, what if the Lakers would have included Austin instead of Max Christie. And I said, look, in that spot, you got to be kind of careful with the amount of negotiating you do, because you don't want to talk them out of trading Luka to you. So yeah, I think if it would be a pretty similar situation here with Milwaukee, where unless he just comes out and says, "Yeah, I want to be traded, and I'm only going to sign my next extension with the Lakers." Um, the Lakers are going to have to, wield whatever leverage they can, get whatever leverage they can. And then I think even if Giannis does say that, the Lakers have to be kind of careful because they don't want Milwaukee to not trade Giannis to them just out of spite, which we saw with the Pacers and Paul George way back in the day. But yeah, interesting question. I think more likely than not, the Lakers would prefer to keep Austin. It's just a matter of like, hey, if it's Giannis, it's Giannis. Speaking of, the next question I got here from Tyler Nizinski, I hope I'm saying your name right. If you were to guess who will the next star, who will be the next star to join the Lakers, who do you think it will be? I have maintained pretty consistently that I think it'll be Giannis, or that's at least the guy that the Lakers are kind of targeting. I think they would also push hard to see if they can get Jokic, and keep a very close eye on that situation over the course of the season. I think they're going to be good though, so it's going to be kind of difficult to get Jokic out of that situation. But Milwaukee, right? They just waived and stretched Dame so that they could sign Miles Turner, and that improves the roster a little bit, seeing as Dame isn't going to play next year. But it also means that they're going to have 20 something $million in dead cap space for the next few years while they try to continue to employ a championship contender around Giannis as he, by the way, gets more expensive. And I just think there's a lot to navigate there that they, those interested parties might eventually say, "Hey, we had a good run, we won the championship. I don't see a path for us to getting a championship here." Um, you know, as things are kind of constructed and looking ahead to what the books look like, maybe at that point, Giannis has that kind of a tough conversation. Remember, Shams just a couple weeks ago, maybe out of the blue reminded us, hey, by the way, Giannis is still having these conversations with his team. I don't think that noise is going anywhere at all this season. I told you guys before Shams reported that just watch. This is going to be the remainder of the summer is going to be spent speculating about Giannis. This season is going to be spent speculating about Giannis. And I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon, especially, by the way, if the Lakers start the season hot. If they look really good and, Luka looks great and Austin and Luka fit a little bit better and Luka and LeBron fit a little bit better, JJ takes a step forward as a coach and the Lakers are cooking with lighter fluid, like at that point, Giannis might look ahead at what the Bucks books look like, and then look at what the Lakers books look like on top of what Luka looks like, and says, "Huh, yeah, we'll see." I took Shams's reporting there as Giannis sending a reminder to the Bucks and to the rest of the NBA that yeah, this is going to be something that we have to pay attention to. And I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. And I think eventually, if I had to like wager or bet or whatever on Superstar X joining the Lakers, who would that Superstar X be? I would put Giannis a good amount ahead of the rest of the field, right? Whether it's Jokic, whether it's go through your favorite NBA players list. I think Giannis is probably the most likely to leave, and I think if he leaves and we know that he and Luka are close. Um, if he does leave and the Lakers look good, that story is going to pop right back up, and it's going to every time it pops up, it'll get louder and louder and louder. I don't know if you guys remember the Anthony Davis stuff where how loud that got and how obnoxious that got for everybody involved. The negotiations were very public. They were feisty. Obviously, they didn't even figure out a way to come to an agreement there, right? Until after Magic stepped away and Del Demps was fired. And it took David Griffin and Rob Pelinka sitting down and saying, all right, however that happened last year, we're just going to move on. Let's try to figure out a way to make this work. And the reason they had it arrived at that place is because of how loud the Anthony Davis to the Lakers stuff was for the entire preceding season. So, and I think we might see a version of that. Maybe not as loud, maybe not as specific, because I think Milwaukee is in a better place now than New Orleans was then. But I would expect a version of that here with Giannis over the course of the next season, maybe the next season or two. And look, the Lakers are going to have a lot of competition for him. The Warriors have been trying to get Giannis for years. Uh, we know that the Clippers are going to be looking for their next superstar, and their books look really clean here too. So maybe they get involved in all this stuff. It's going to be interesting to watch how this plays out. And by the way, Milwaukee might just be good enough to quiet all this down on their own, because the East sucks this year, and it seems like the kind of Eastern Conference that Milwaukee, and if a like relatively healthy Giannis is able to piece together a decent season, they should be one of the favorites to come out of the East. Like between them and I think the Cavs are the favorites. I think Milwaukee's probably next. Maybe the Knicks are next. Maybe Orlando after that. Atlanta in that mix, but it's still pretty wide open. And yeah, I would if Milwaukee is good, that makes this a lot tougher. If they aren't, and the Lakers are, that's when those flames get fanned a little bit. All right. Yeah, I see a comment here from Shri Charan or Karan. I don't know how to say your name. Sorry. Giannis trade is the biggest snake oil in the NBA. Warriors, Knicks, Miami, all hoping for him to request a trade. Yeah, you're right. Like I've mentioned this on the show a ton. Where look, the Lakers have LeBron and Luka right now, and the Warriors have had Steph in his prime for all this time, and they've wasted a good chunk of that prime pursuing this stupid two timelines thing that has completely blown up in their face. But also they've wasted it with these prayers and hopes for Giannis, and he has remained loyal to the city of Milwaukee and to the organization of the Milwaukee Bucks. So yeah, like there are pitfalls to this plan too. I am just saying that look, there is different noise when the Lakers have their eye on somebody, on a superstar. There just is. It was different when they had their eye on LeBron, and he had his eye on the Lakers as a free agent when he eventually signed. It was different when they had their eye on Anthony Davis. It's just like those rumors swirl, that smoke swirls a lot thicker than when like the Warriors are kind of interested in a guy, or the Heat, or like there's never even smoke when the Heat are interested in a guy. They don't get those guys anymore. So yeah, I would probably say that over the course of this season, just watch, man. I've warned you guys all summer. And the first time I warned you guys about the summer of Giannis and the season of Giannis, literal like 48 hours later, Shams is out there talking about, hey, Giannis had those tough conversations with his camp about the future of the Bucks and how that might look. I am telling you, these things just go different when it's the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers, interested in a superstar who might be on uneasy footing in their current market. Let's see. The next question here, I'll go to the YouTube comments. Let's see. So Sean Collado, I hope I'm saying that right. Maybe Collado. I don't know. Maybe. Hi, Anthony. If I don't have Amazon Prime or Peacock, will Spectrum Sportsnet cover those games as well, or will I need to subscribe to those channels? Thanks. Yeah, this is one of the bummers of the streaming wars is, we had this idea once upon a time of, yeah, cut cable and you can go and you can be able to watch all of your favorite shows on all of these streamers. And then eventually you kind of look at your, like, for us, man, I'm fortunate enough I get to write it off because of what I do, but we have YouTube TV, we have HBO, because for a little while HBO was airing NBA games. Man, I'm gonna miss that. You have we have a Disney Plus thing that comes with ESPN. That costs money. Peacock, you have uh, y- y- Paramount Plus right now with UFC heading over there. That's going to be an expense for people. Apple TV, because some of the Dodgers games are on Apple TV. So, like, we look at our expenses every month and we're like, fuck me, man, we were better off paying the 139.99 that we were paying for cable back in the day, and everything was just there. Now it is nice. Those streamers do offer 4K streaming for those games, and I'm looking forward to what that might look like on Prime and on NBC. I think that is going to be a step in the right direction in terms of viewing experience. ESPN for some reason just still can't get there. They had NBA Finals games in 720p. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable how bad ESPN, how poorly they they treat the freaking NBA. But anyway, yeah, as far as I know, it's at least worth starting the season with just Spectrum, and then seeing, what their actual airing schedule would be and how they handle these games, because we do know that they share some of these telecasts with ESPN, with TNT from time to time. And if you live in the LA market, you, I believe, have access to that. Now, I don't honestly know how it works with Spectrum. We subscribe to League Pass, so that's just kind of how it goes for me. But I would start the season with just Spectrum, see what that telecast schedule looks like, and then if you have to, if you're just in the interest of being able to watch the NBA, but also saving money by not having to subscribe to all of these streamers, I would just do a month by month thing, and as soon as the season is over, cancel with Peacock, cancel Apple TV, and I mean, I think everybody pretty much has Amazon Prime Video, so that kind of helps. But you could cancel that, and then kind of do that song and dance all over again by the time we get to the next season. But I would start with just Spectrum and see how far that gets you. I'll also look into. I have some friends at Spectrum. I'll ask them how that's going to work, and I'll try to come back to this on the show later this week. Let's see. Next question here. Ferris Mifsal, is there any more trade coming? I mean, depends on when you're asking, right? Like, at some point in the rest of our lives, yeah, there'll probably be another trade. As far as the rest of the season goes, I've been saying this for a little while. I believe this is the Lakers roster that they'll carry into opening night, and they are waiting for the season to start. And we talked during the schedule breakdown. I broke it down into 10-game segments. The league kind of treats the league just kind of splits up the season into quadrants, and usually like 20 games in, you have a decent idea of where you're going to be, and then definitely by the time you get to the 40 game mark, you have everybody with a pretty good idea of where they're going to be. And I think, by the time we get to that 20th game, and that's mid-December, and that's when the trade market kind of takes its next step forward. That's when I think the Lakers will probably get more involved. I think Portland by that time will kind of fall off, and maybe Robert Williams is available. Maybe Matisse Thybulle is available at that time too. Maybe you see how Miami's season is going, and if they just salary dumped Haywood Highsmith. So if they're more interested in ducking the luxury tax than building a winner, then maybe you can you can pick that conversation back up with Andrew Wiggins again. So I would say, as far as like when the next trade might come, would be pretty surprised if there was one before the season started. And then once the season starts, I would probably say you're looking at a good 20 games or so before that trade market starts to kind of clarify, because I've talked about this with the flattening of the lottery odds and the flattening of the playoff odds. You have a lot more teams less interested in tanking right when the season gets going. They eventually tank, and they do their tanking in kind of unique ways. Like, one of the things that the league, I think, has to really temper down on and really come down hard on these teams for doing is they will, like the Utah Jazz last year, what they basically did was, they had Jason Collins, and they had Lauri Markkanen, and they had Walker Kessler, and they had all these guys. And they would, those guys would play a lot of their minutes in the early parts of the game. Team would look pretty good. And then, wouldn't you know it, those guys just kind of stopped playing over the course of the game. So they were able to have their cake and eat it too. You had wantable players, you had good NBA players on your team, but you also entered yourself into the Cooper Flag situation by having Will Hardy coach to lose. And, I can't believe I'm saying back in my day, like the right way to tank. But really, though, the way that you tanked was just you would just employ bad players. And nowadays you have teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder, while they were building the monster that they currently employ. They had Al Horford just go home and sit out a whole year. And I think that's something that, like, the league needs to basically say no. If you're gonna try to lose, you have to you have to let good players earn themselves the opportunity to hit their bonus structures, right? And by having good players and benching them at the ends of games, or having them sit out with these phantom hamstring injuries, you're affecting their money in its own way. And I think that's something that the league really needs to stop. So anyway, long story long now. Is there another trade coming? Probably not. Not until you get through the first quarter of the season, when a lot of these teams are hit right in the face by the realities of their situations. All right, let's see. Is there another? Oh, we do have another. So at Kobe Kershaw writes, would you and would other teams do this? Gabe, Jax, and a second for Highsmith, then Dalton and a first for Devin Carter and Keon Ellis. So I don't think Sacramento does the second one, because, like, they are interested in Jonathan Kuminga, and they don't want to include Keon Ellis in a trade for Jonathan Kuminga. And Kuminga is quite a bit better than Dalton. So I don't think Sacramento does the second one. And I also don't think the Lakers do the second one either, because I don't think they're using a first round pick on the likes of a Keon Ellis or a Devin Carter. So that's one of those trades where both teams probably are kind of disinterested in it. The second one, Gabe Jackson and a second for Highsmith, that would technically work, because Brooklyn is below the salary cap by quite a bit. So you give yourself some financial flexibility and roster flexibility. Amir Coffee, by the way, just signed a training camp deal with the Milwaukee Bucks, which technically means that, at the end of training camp, because they have to cut their roster down too. The Nets, for that matter, have to cut their roster down. Um, it Coffee could technically be available heading into the season, and I think he's good. So, would I do the first one, Gabe Jackson, and the second for Highsmith? I would, but that leaves you with Koloko and Kleba as your backup centers. That makes me a little nervous. I would do that one. Would Brooklyn do that? I think I don't think they would. Haysmith is on like a $5.6 million expiring contract. He is good. Like, I like his game quite a bit. The Miami Heat fans call him Locksmith. He's a really good defender, improved as a 3-point shooter over the course of his career too. So I would do that first one. I don't think that Brooklyn would. I think that they would hold on to him and see if they can get a little bit better value than, two, retreads and a second from a team that's going to be good, right? Like if you trade for a Lakers second rounder, you're probably getting a pick in the 50s, depending on when it, actually pervades. So I would probably say Brooklyn says no to that. But I like where your head's at. I like where your head's at with those, with the first trade package. I don't think the second one. I don't think anybody would really want to do the second one. We have a super comment, which means all right. Greenlight Transport writes, we need Lou Dort somehow. Is this even possible? Anything's possible. Lakers got Luka. Like, we all have to we honestly, basically have to rework our brains for what is possible, what is not possible, because of that Luka trade. Now, what would it cost? It would probably take a year or two from now when Shea's contract kicks in and we see what the financial situation there in Oklahoma City looks like. Dort would be excellent. I would love to get Dort. The thing is, what Dort is I think what the Lakers envision with Marcus Smart. So it's one of those like we have Marcus Smart at home kids memes, like kid sees a toy at at a store and he's dad, can we get this thing? And I'm like, come on, you have Spider-Man at home. And you get home and the Spider-Man is like beating hell and all that stuff. But I kind of think that's kind of how the Lakers envision Marcus Smart filling his role this year, where maybe he needs to improve as a 3-point shooter, as a catch and shoot 3-pointer, especially. But he's a steady and sturdy defender who I think does a really good job of utilizing his reputation with his physicality. So I think, that's essentially like the hope with Smart is that maybe, just maybe, he provides to the Lakers this year what Lou Dort has been providing to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Yeah. We got Dort at home. All right. 50 minutes in. You guys are all still here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and call it here because it is Sunday and I would like to enjoy a little bit more of it with my fam. So until the next time, I am Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day. Make somebody else's, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good weekend, everybody.